This time on Ask Rad Rat, we are talking about nostalgia and why that makes people film in certain ways. Let's do it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel about skateboarding in all of its forms. I answer your questions here on this series, Ask Rad Rat. Think up a question that you might want to see in a future episode, and I will let you know how to get it to me at the end of the video. But today, I've got a few questions. The first one is from Hotspur, who says, "Hey Rad Rat, can you tell me what on earth this trick is by Rodney Mullen?" Yes, that is a varial heel flip underflip, which is an absolutely inconceivable trick. Like, I can't even figure out how you would do it. Because the first flip, the heel flip, you usually flip forward, right? But to do the underflip, his foot has to be back here and flip it forward. So he flips it kind of off, straight off the nose because it's starting to spin, and then he wraps his foot around, catches it way back here, and pulls it forward so it can land underneath him. It's absurd. I can't even picture what that would feel like or how it would even look from my perspective if I were to try it. Crazy trick. But there are a couple more interesting things about that scene where he does that. He does a couple more tricks. He does a bunch of different types of kickflip, underflip variations, and he does one nollie. But most of the time he flips and he underflips with the same foot. Almost always, but when he does it nollie, he flips with his back foot, normally like a normal nollie flip, and then he underflips with his front foot. Super weird, just something that I wanted to point out in case you hadn't caught that before, like a totally different technique for the same trick because it's in a different stance. And also he runs into Jack Nicholson, but it's not actually him. I remember seeing an ad in Trans World. This must have been around 2004. I had a subscription to them. And they showed him just like the guy that they got to play him, and he doesn't look anything like him. But it's just like the way that he was dressed and the way that he kind of held himself that sold it. Like, it doesn't look like him at all. But anyway, that was just another little note about that scene since we were talking about it. All right, next question is from G $, who says, "When you're injured, do you feel kind of down when you watch or see people skating, or does it lift your spirits?" To me, it kind of gets me down because it sucks. And it's like, man, I wish I could be doing that right now. Like, I'm at a point right now. So I hurt my knee in July, and I think the last time I skated was probably in June, and it is mid-December right now as I film this. I hurt my knee pretty badly. It still hurts sometimes. If I move my foot the right way, or I'm trying to like climb out of bed or whatever, and I like push off in a certain way and I can't figure out what, it'll hurt. It's like right on the top of my knee, quite a bit. And it'll be sore after that. Like after a second of indirect pain, like it sucks. It's been getting better and better and better, but pretty soon after I got good enough for me to walk around without having to be on crutches or with a cane or a scooter at the grocery store, a little bit after, I went on a trip to Portugal, and I fell down some stairs and sprained my ankle. Like right away. I was back, not on crutches. I went to the somewhere there, and I got a cane to walk around with. So I'm on my whole trip with a cane trying to go around and climb tons and tons of stairs, lots of stairs in Portugal. And so I did that, and then I got home, and then I'm pretty sure I broke my toe because I stubbed it so hard against my bed. So yeah, my knee is in rough shape, my ankle is it's getting better, but like if I go a little bit too far, it's definitely tight, and it's a little bit still swollen a bit, but it's been a few weeks now. But yeah, like when I see people skate, I get kind of sad because I wish I could be doing it. And I know that even if I get better enough that I can skate, I'm never going to be pushing it that much now. I could do some flat, do a couple kick flips, do a Casper, ride up a quarter pipe and do a kick turn on it. I'll be doing that kind of stuff, but it's super risky for me to push it now, knowing that I have been hurt so much so recently. Like, is just too scary. I don't want to end up doing more permanent damage. So it does suck. I don't watch a ton of skating right now. I do still enjoy playing skateboarding games. For some reason, like that kind of just scratches the itch without me having to get hurt. But just watching people actually skate makes me feel like I wish I could be doing that. So the next question is from AVG, who says, I was wondering, what do you consider the most stylish in terms of skating? I was thinking about this for a while when you mentioned how Nyjah makes his tricks look too easy, and you like to see some of the difficulty in the trick shine through. I think Daewon's song is a good example where he does really crazy stuff, but he's never super locked in, you know? Like his trucks are really loose and they flop around, so he's always like holding his balance in a manual, and it looks like he's trying to fight for it. Or he'll do a big trick to fakie in a quarter pipe or something like that, and you can just kind of tell when he lands, he's got to hold on to it just a little bit. It's not sketchy. It's just like, that was hard, and it couldn't look perfect because it's too hard to do perfectly, you know? So I do kind of like that. He's got more specific questions about it. Does the size of the board matter? Yeah, kind of, but only if it's weird. You know, if you go back and watch stuff from like 2000 when boards were 7.5 or so, it can look weird. Like you see a picture of someone doing a kickflip down some stairs and the board is like this big. You're thinking, how is he going to land on that thing? His feet are going to hang off both sides and it's going to, you know, like it's so small. How can you even do a trick on that? Which I was skating in that time and I had boards that big and that was very normal for me at the time. But now that they're more, that they're not that small, it feels weird to see such a tiny board. And with freestyle, for example, freestyle boards are often much smaller. They'll be like 7.25 and they'll be, you know, not as long too. So I'm like 6'2". You could see me out there on a board that's like this big doing Caspers and stuff like that. And I bet that looks kind of weird. To me, it doesn't, because I'm so used to that. Like that's normal for freestyle, that if I had a big, like a current size street board doing freestyle stuff, that would look weird to me. But yeah, it's I guess the context. If it doesn't draw itself, it doesn't draw too much attention away from the trick. Does how baggy the pants are matter? It does if it's distracting. I think all of the skaters' clothes have a small effect on it. One thing that gets to me is when someone is dressed like very light clothes, you know, but they've bailed so many times that their back is just like caked in dirt from all the times they've hit the ground. You couldn't tell if the shirt was black, but because it's like a, you know, bright shirt, you can tell that they've fallen 100 times doing it. And that's fine, but it just kind of is something that you notice instead of the trick. So yeah, if someone's dressed too weird, super flappy, enormous pants, extremely tight pants that look like they're painted on, that stuff can have an effect. It's not that much though, because you know, really all that I care about is the skating. But if it's like drawing me away from the skating, I guess that would be kind of an issue for me. Does how hard the trick is matter? Not necessarily, but there has to be something difficult about the trick to me. So you can do a kickflip and have it look good. It just has to be a really good kickflip. So I was thinking, like, if I did a tray flip down a curb and you did a kickflip, the kickflip could have been the better trick, you know, if I did it badly enough. So I was thinking, like, if I was going to do the tray flip not straight, you know, I didn't like come up to the curb this way and tray flip down it. I went like this way. So I just transferred slightly ahead. I was going super slow, landed, kind of kick turned and hit the curb, and then kick turned away and like had to tic tac to get some speed. If that was what my tray flip looked like and your kick flip was like fast, clean, well caught, cleared a bunch of extra distance and all that stuff, then it would look better, right? But the difficulty was doing it so cleanly, doing it with speed, getting that nice catch, that type of thing. Back in the day on the Skaters Cafe forum, there was a guy named A-Train. This was before The Boys came out, where there's a character with that name. But he did an inward heel flip on flat, either normal or fakie. I don't remember, but it was super high. It was like waist high. The guy caught it, flipped it like way up here, had to bend his legs up as high as they could go and caught him and pulled it back down. And it wasn't ultra clean, but it was so high that it looked awesome. Right? It looked cool because if he just did an inward heel on flat, got a decent catch or not, even if he landed in a slight pivot or something like that, I would have immediately forgotten about that clip. But seeing that amazingly high inward heel flip, it stood out to me. And that was like a really cool trick. Do loose and tight trucks matter? It does with grinds, especially if you're going to do a crook or like a Smith or something like that. Your wheel really should be pinched just right, and that really makes you look locked in instead of like doing like with a crook. If this truck is pinched real tight and the board's kind of flat versus like doing a nose grind but just at an angle, that's not very cool. But if it's locked in and it's clearly a crooked grind, there's nothing else that could be. That looks cooler. So that you need some loose trucks for. In general, if you got some speed and you can actually turn, I used to skate my trucks so tight that I had to tic-tac. There was no real turning, and that doesn't look so good. The next part is, does the creativity matter? I think so, but only as like a bonus. For a lot of really rare and obscure tricks, they're rare and obscure because they don't look that good, or you have to do it in like a awkward way. Your foot position has to be really crazy or something like that. Like a plasma spin, which you can learn right here, which is like a front side big spin, but it wraps on your back foot. But the way that you have to do your feet for it, some people actually do it their back foot like this. So your feet are like kind of backwards, and then you pop it and it wraps around your foot like that. I don't do it like that. I can pop it and then shift my foot like as it starts to flip. But like if your foot position has to be really weird to do the trick, no matter how cool the trick looks, which I do think it looks pretty cool, but it's not going to be as stylish as a more simple, more common trick done well. And something you didn't talk about that I think is important is the way a trick is filmed. That can make a big difference. Something I like is when you can see both the grip and the graphic in a flip trick. So if you film a 360 flip from the front, like me right now with my face to the camera, it's possible that you could do the whole 360 flip. And I'm trying to watch it, but I don't have my glasses on. You can do the whole 360 flip like that and see just the grip the whole time. For me, if the angle was more like this, and you could see the graphic coming up, and then you see the grip, and then you see the graphic again, and then you land it, it looks like it flips more, and that makes it look more cool to me. So that's also a big part of it. A more basic trick, but filmed very well, can make a trick look more stylish too. And style does matter. When I first started skating for years and years and years, all that mattered to me was what the trick was. If I can say I did X, that's awesome. It doesn't matter that it looked terrible, but the more I skated, the more I've been around the block, the more I've tried to film and stuff like that, the more I've become more excited about good style as opposed to a good trick necessarily. All right. The last question from today is from Parker, who says, you've sort of answered this before, but I have a deeper question on it. A lot of people in skating seem to think we need to push the limits of what's possible and to innovate on style, gear, tricks. But there's another camp who want to keep on using VX1000s, wear and use specific gear from different past eras of skateboarding, and sort of continue the tradition of what worked well in the past. I think there's something to be said for moving things forward, but there is also something to be said for keeping up the traditions of skateboarding culture rather than redefining them every 10 years. Curious what you think. Yeah, I have talked about this before, and my general thought process was that better is better. So like having 4K clip as opposed to, having to rip something off a tape that's much worse quality and harder to work with. There's no benefit for me. But the more I've thought about it, the more I get it, and the more I think I know where it comes from. So for me, I'm into collecting a bunch of different things, and I watch people online talk about their comics and their, their their game collections, their original PlayStation or their Super Nintendo collections and stuff like that. And I get where that comes from, because you want to have the stuff that you didn't get to have as a kid, or the stuff that you wish you had back then. Like when I was a kid, if we went to the store, I might be able to get a comic book, I might be able to get a toy, I might be able to get a pack of Pokemon cards, I might be able to get, like one of these things, which means I didn't have an amazing collection of any of them. If I was only into one thing, maybe I could get one more of that thing every time. I could get every issue of Spider-Man instead of 3 this year, but I also got this other stuff. And so when you grow up, you kind of get to a point where, you see something like that at the store. I see an old issue of Spider-Man that I remember seeing at the store for sale that I couldn't get, and I want to have it. I have all the ones that I had at the time. I sold my whole comic collection, unfortunately, but I've been rebuilding it slowly. And it feels really good to have all the things that you wish you had back then. And having that stuff like on, I hang some comics up on my walls in my office, and having some of the toys I had and toys that I didn't have but I wish I did. I got like old Star Wars toys and stuff that are all up on some shelves, and it feels really good to have that stuff. I was thinking about that, and like this didn't happen to me with skateboarding, but when you watched old stuff back in the day, you would see them filming on certain cameras. Like watching a skate video from 2003, let's say, if you could get that camera and you could get that lens and the light that clips onto the top, and you can have the exact same gear that the pros used to use back then, that's something you probably wish you had, because that was the best that there was. So if you can have the best stuff that there is and you can film like a pro, that's got to feel really cool. Now, to me, I didn't care about that, because I was more into, bringing the clips into my computer and doing stuff to them. And having standard def, it's really awkward. The pixels aren't square, they're like longer. So like if you convert it to, like, you lose a lot of, it's really weird. And if you pause it, kind of goes between these two half frames, because every frame is like lines that are only half of a frame. It's really awkward to work with. It was always difficult. I was so relieved when HD cameras came out and I was able to get that. But I can see how for some people, feeling like you are a pro from the time that you wish you were a pro when you were like 10 or 15, for me, like if you could get all that stuff that you could have had if you were at that pro level, that's got to feel really, really good. So I get making a video that you could take back to 2003 or 2004, and you could give it to somebody and it would look like it was filmed then professionally, but you did it last week. So I get it. I'm not going to say that people shouldn't do that, and I haven't ever said that you should not be allowed to do something like that. It's an artistic thing. You should be able to make the choices that you want. That doesn't appeal to me personally, but I get it, and I get it in different ways. So I think that's a big part of it, just being able to feel like you are a pro from the era that you grew up in. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. If you came up with a question like I asked, you can go to radratvideo.com and you can submit it on the form on the homepage. While you're there, you can buy some of my old school shirts. There's a link in the description to my newer shirts. I made, I think, 9 different styles, shirts and hoodies and bottles and stickers and all that type of stuff is on there if you want. You can also support the channel by subscribing, telling your friends about it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.